Shalom, all praises to the Most High. Anoka said, praise be to the earthly mother, the Pachamama, and all of her earthly angels, the Erkadeshoi. Praise be to the Holy Spirit, the Kahe, in the name of his only begotten Son, Motsah the Lamb, unification to the nation. So I know you guys see the title of this video, and I know you're probably expecting a different sort of video, but we just have a lot of information that I want to amass, and I don't really want to go through all the theatrics of, putting a soundtrack behind it and, editing my voice and stuff like that. So I'm just going to make just a regular video, but this is going to be a continuation of the series that I started a while ago, and I came away from it because I thought that maybe it was a little bit insulting, but it is what it is. The truth is going to be insulting. It might be a hard pill to swallow, but I need to just say the truth. And I'm just letting you know, I'm not trying to be insulting. I'm just doing historical research. This has no necessary. This is not necessarily me trying to tell people who they are today, because I don't know. But historically, I do have to share this information, because this is just what history is. So we're going to begin. This is Genesis chapter 2, verses 18 through 20. And the Most High said, "It is not good that man should be alone. I will make him a help meet for him." And out of the ground the Most High formed every beast of the field, and every fowl of the air, and brought them unto Adam to see what he would call them. And whatsoever Adam called every living creature, that was the name thereof. And Adam gave names to all the cattle, and to all the fowl of the air, and to every beast of the field. But for Adam there was not a helpmeet for him. So I wanted to read that because it's an assumption that verse is only talking about, what we know as animals today. And it could be. I'm not saying that it isn't, but I'm saying that there's another perspective to it. What chapter is this? This is Isaiah chapter 34, verse 14. The wild beasts of the desert shall also meet with the wild beast of an island, and the satyr or the satyr shall cry to his fellow, and the screech owl also shall rest there, and find for herself a place of rest. So this is putting the satyr and an owl in the same category as a wild beast of a desert or a beast of a field. So my question is are these creatures, are these satyrs or satyrs, are they one of the beasts that were named in the beginning, but there was no helpmeet found among him? Is that what happened? I don't know. Just asking questions. Now, let me go to the satyr real quick, just so you guys remember what I'm talking about. This is the satyr, the half goat creature, right? I guess this would be the beast. I suppose this would be the beast. And you can see how this beast looks. There's a very particular look to it. Excuse me for any graphic imagery. But there's a particular look to this satyr. I'll just say satyr. And we know by the Book of Remembrance how the people of Adam looked and how his descendants looked. And this is, I've went over this before, I'll do it again. And this is Seth chapter 1, verse 13, Book of Remembrance of Enoch, Essene of Haggai. And as I looked to behold them, I knew the ancient lived very long and healthy lives, and I observed the appearance of their bodies, and all the bodies of the ancients, both wicked and righteous, appeared the same to me. They were very brown, and their hair was full and black. And Ya'at or what people know as Adam, had his hair in two braids, and Hawa, or Eve, had hers in one. So that is how the first parents looked. This is how their descendants looked. They were very brown with full black hair. And Enoch looked and said, Lord, who is this child? And the child was very brown, and he had a full head of black hair. And Motsah said, it is your first father, Ya'at. Right? There's no guessing. And because of this, little girl the Lord entered into on her day of Gamel was called the rib of Ya'at, and her name was Hawa. And she is very brown, and she also has a full head of black hair. Right? So, I'm just saying, the descendants of Adam and Eve, quote unquote, they look one way, and there's another group of people who look another way.
Pleased me more than a little. Indeed, I'm going to revise very little of what you claimed about them, but you will know that by no means of our request, you wrote to us about these things you were able to learn concerning the nature of the Cynocephali, and you pleased me more than a little. Indeed, I'm going to revise very little of what you claimed about them, but you will know...
The Cynocephali, I don't even know how you really say it, because he has an accent. Let me see. Cynocephali. The Cynocephali means dog-headed men, and this is what we're going to speak about in this video. Who are the dog-headed men? And who and where do they come from? Now, the reason why I'm playing this video is because I can't really look for this in English. This is in Latin, so I'm guessing someone translated it from Latin for him. So I have to depend on watching this video, otherwise I just read it myself.
That by no means did I come to this sentiment out of the torpor of carelessness, but that I was in fact uncertain of what was not attested by the presence of an informer. But now, Brother Solward is coming to us and will return to you, and given this opportunity, we were anxious to briefly disclose what we thought concerning your investigation. For you are asking what you ought to think of the Cynocephali, namely, whether they were descended from Adam's stock, or if they have the souls of beasts.
See what he's asking? He doesn't know who these things are or what these things are. He's questioning, do they come from Adam or do they come from beasts, or the beasts of the field, the ones who Adam named? Right? He's asking the same question I'm asking right now. Who are these people?
This question can be briefly settled as follows. If we were to consider the kind of people there are, it should seem obvious that there had been descended from the offspring of the first humans. And of course, it is impossible to suppose that a person came from some other origin than through the means of their earliest ancestors. If we ponder about the species of beasts, named as such by humans, by their nature they don't communicate. Meanwhile, with this knowledge, if we were indeed satisfied with our supposition, which is clearly held by the learned church ministers, then they, the Cynocephali, should be considered closer to beasts than humans, if in fact they have a canine head shape and bark like dogs. It shows they are not humans, but are similar to beasts.
So, as they're going through their philosophical debate on, how could these hybrided beings, how can they act like humans but be beasts? But however, how can they look like this and be humans? Now, there is a reason why the Israelites had such strict rules against, mixing with other people. It had nothing to do with actually mixing with other people, but rather it was for two reasons. One, other people would lead other people into wickedness. So if you come from a culture that's full of wickedness and you have no concept of the Most High, then they're going to bring that culture to you. It's that simple. But the second reason is because we weren't supposed to have any of this stuff in us. We weren't supposed to procreate with these things. And other nations did not have the same rules against it. So they were mixed up with all this stuff. So our pool just got smaller and smaller over time. It's just natural to do so. However, did that stop us from actually mixing in with these other peoples after they mixed in with these dog-headed beings? No.
Next, a human head is round and placed on top so he can behold the heavens, whereas the dog's head is oblong and drawn out in a snout so he looks to the ground. And humans talk, but dogs, in fact, bark. Truly, from these letters you kindly sent us, while they studiously report the nature of these Cynocephali, they indicate several things which seem to agree that they have the reasoning mind of a human, rather than the sensibilities of a beast. Evidently, they uphold the laws of their society. They are said to live together in houses. They practice agriculture. They harvest crops. They show that they respect customs which are not beastly by clothing themselves with human-like modesty. And this is evidence for their sense of shame. They don't just use hides for garments, but you even wrote that they have cloth. Now, in a way, all these things seem to testify that a rational mind is present within them. For since a civil society may be described as the unification of degenerate people equally under the same law, and since these Cynocephali are said to live together with each other in communal houses, I believe the distinguishing factor of civility fits in helpfully with such creatures. And if in fact they form a crowd when they gather together, they can only live together under some kind of lawful agreement. Indeed, where some type of law is preserved, it is also held together with the unanimous agreement of wills, and any sort of law cannot exist where it isn't decreed by collective consent. Certainly, laws can neither be set in place nor ever preserved without some kind of moral instruction. Truly, now, your letter shows that they cultivate fields, plough the earth, and sow seeds in the countryside to gain profit, and that they are skilled in craft. These traits would be completely unknown if the Cynocephali were not endowed with a reasoning mind to support them. And as a matter of fact, it is reasonable to look for the purpose of a single action. Where there is a purpose, what is it that makes the soil fertile?
I just want to make a few comments real quick. The fact that people are asking these questions means that this knowledge was hidden or unknown. So it would make sense why the table of nations in Genesis is not completely accurate. Second, it also makes sense why certain people today are more prone to procreating with canines than other peoples. Particularly people who have a certain ancestry that can go back to maybe a place where these I don't want to say it like him. How you say it again? Cynocephali are located, and maybe those people came over here to the Americas, and we are living amongst these hybrided beings today who come from this certain seed line of Cynocephali. An interesting concept.
It yield an abundance of seed. Without the agricultural knowledge of these things, could never be cultivated. Moreover, they have the diligence of a rational mind to know how to make clothing from either hide or wool or linen, for they could not have obtained these things without some kind of workmanship, and the knowledge of craft is only bestowed upon a rational mind. But to clothe themselves in shame is a sign of honour, which is not sought for unless they can judge in their mind the difference between disgrace and decency. And surely no one can blush about immodesty unless they happen to have some concept of decency. Now, nobody, except someone who lacks reason, would deny that these things are all characteristic of a rational mind. On this subject, when you say that there seems to be other things among the Cynocephali, you give evidence that a rational mind really is present in them. Truly, man is distinguished from the beasts only by his rationality. People seem to be better at reasoning than...
Hey, what's up, fresh fellas? This is the director's commentary for the Old Spice Fiji 6-second commercial. So on the first shoot day...
Dishwashers use less than 4 gallons of water per cycle, while hand washing uses way more. Cascade.
Than animals. The published account of the martyr Saint Christopher seems to adequately support this understanding. Now, as it was read there, he is thought to have come from this race of people, and he fully committed both his life and martyrdom to radiant virtues, for it is believed that he was divinely influenced to be baptized with the help of a cloud pouring all over him, as evidenced by his account.
Now, this is very, very interesting because when I looked into him, and we're going to get, into a little bit, not too much, but a little bit of the different Christian Cynocephali that came about during, the Christian age, how they converted. This goes back to the concept of, anyone can come back. There is no more curse because certain people were cursed and they could not enter into the congregation anymore. Certain people such as Canaan or the sons of Lot, Moab, and Ammon. And all of that was pretty much said, all right, well, now you're not cursed anymore. Now you can join, but now, you're going to have to, work. You're going to have to show that you really want something. So these cursed people were now able to come back into the congregation, right? Anyone can come back, and anyone can repent. Unless they don't come from Adam, then that's a different story. But anyone from Adam will be able to return into the garden. They have the ability to do so, right? That's the truth. Doesn't matter who you're from, doesn't matter what seed line you're from. But you will curse your own seed line, you will curse yourself. And you also still have to pay for the sins of your forefathers. You absolutely do. But that doesn't mean that you can't get right with the Most High eventually. But that all being said, how did this dog-headed being convert to Christianity if he is not from Adam? However, as we can see, there are different creatures who are not from Adam, who can look like these things. So are there Adamic dog-headed beings and non-Adamic dog-headed beings? These are just some questions I'm approaching. Let's finish.
Additionally, many things are being reported with spreading fame, things which seem to suggest that these race of people is in command of rational thought. Isidore said that in his notes, when he was talking about the varieties of monsters which originated from the human race in the book of etymologies, and just as there are monstrous individuals within the clans of people, so there are monstrous clans within the greater human race, the giants, the Cynocephali, the Cyclops, etc., etc. In saying this, he clearly showed that he believed the Cynocephali had originated from the offspring of the first man.
So, there are different beasts here that could have originated from Adam and maybe didn't. But there's also a common look that all of these non-Adamic beings all have, and you can come to that conclusion yourself. I already showed you how the first people looked, so I'm not going to harp on it. But there are a certain group of people who do come from Adam, and a group of people who don't. Now, there was here's my circumstance as to maybe why this did occur, and I did give you a precept in a video that I did about a week or two ago, and I'm gonna read it because I found it. This is Yashaya chapter 9, verse 35. And the Lord smote the 3 divisions that were there, or in the Tower of Babel, and he punished them according to their works and designs. Those who said, "We will ascend to heaven and serve our gods," became like apes and elephants. And those who said, "We will smite the heaven with arrows," the Lord killed them, one man through the hand of his neighbor. And the 3rd division of those who said, "We will ascend to heaven to fight against him," the Lord scattereth them throughout the earth. Is this talking about the Cynocephali and maybe the other creatures? But that would mean that they would come from Adam, though, because these are Adamic beings still. But they still are a certain group of people. You know, they still have to come from some sort of seed line. Like they could come from Shem, Ham, Japheth, Juval, Tubal, the line of Cain, Canaan. I don't know. But let's move down. Jasher 61 verse 15. And Zepho, which is a king of Edom, went, and he saw, and behold, there was a large cave at the bottom of the mountain, and there was a great stone there at the entrance of the cave. And Zepho split the stone, and he came into the cave, and he looked, and behold, a large animal was devouring the ox. From the middle upward it resembled a man, and from the middle downward it resembled an animal. And Zepho rose up against the animal and slew it with his swords. So there are 2 different types of beast men. They're the ones whose face looks like a regular human's, but the downward of his body looks like an animal. That sounds like a satyr. So we have those peoples, and we also have the dog-headed men. You also have the Wody-Woes. I don't know who they are, but it seems like they're a sort of cattle beast person as well. Reading Jasher chapter 36, verse, I don't know which one that is. I don't know, but you could look that up. Terrible animals from the wilderness came to the asses of Anan. Their shape was from the middle downward of the children of man, and from their middle upward, some the likeness of bears, some kephas with tails behind them, from between their shoulders reaching down to the earth. Let's finish this video.
For just as in the separate clans, certain tribes seem to be born against the laws of nature. For example, the 2-headed, the Tremani, the dwarfs, the hermaphrodites or androgynes, and many more besides. However, these monsters don't arise against the laws of nature, but they come about in a certain way with their own peculiar disposition, since the natural law is an arrangement of God. In the same way also, these marvelous monsters seem to introduce a monstrous branch to the natural lineage of the entire human race. Monsters who were mentioned above and many more besides, which take a long time to list. The pygmies and the back to front, the former of which is said to stand only a cubit in height, and it is said that the latter's feet are turned around behind their legs, and that they have 8 toes in each foot. The horse-hoofed, who are a mix of human body with the feet of a horse. The macrobi, standing nearly twice as tall as a regular human, and the tribe of women in India who conceive at the age of 5 and don't live longer than 8 years, and many other extraordinary creatures are told about. But although these monsters reportedly originated from the human race, they are hardly ever said to be people who are equipped with a rationality that is to their strength. Indeed, in regards to the giants who are counted among these monsters, almost no one doubts that these people were born from humans, and since these creatures are supported with the authority of divine scripture, we should not omit them. While the Cynocephali are numbered together with these monsters, they are even thought to be sentient. Certainly if the things which are read concerning St. Christopher are established, seeing that this well-known rumour about them spread. But although we may think as much, it does not follow that whatever is produced from a human being is also human, and has been granted with the genius of human reason. For instance, it is read that a calf was born from a lady, or that a serpent emerged.
They have moved me to jealousy with that which is not a god. They have provoked me to anger with his vanities, and I will move them to jealousy with those which are not a people. I will provoke them to anger with a foolish nation. For a fire is kindled in mine anger, and shall burn unto the lowest hell, and shall consume the earth with her increase, and set on fire the foundations of the mountains. And we went over the prophecy that Quetzalcoatl told to the Toltecs, and exactly what type of people would come over here. So hopefully this is starting to connect. We're going to move on. Satyrs and nymphs. The satyr are a troop of male companions of Pan and Dionysus that roam the woods and mountains. In mythology, they are often associated with male sex drive, and many artists have portrayed them with erections. Satyrs acquired their goat-like aspect through later conflation with the Roman Faunus, a carefree nature spirit of similar temperament. Satyrs are described as roguish but faint-hearted folk, subverse and dangerous, yet shy and cowardly. As Dionysiac creatures, they are lovers of wine, women, and boys, and they are ready for every physical pleasure. They love to dance with the nymphs, with whom they are obsessed and whom they often pursue. As I've said, there are people with these qualities today who we live among. It is what it is. Now we're going to look at a little bit at the nymph. The ancient Greek believe in nymphs survived in many parts of the country into the early years of the 20th century. What do you mean the 20th century? I don't understand that. I'm trying to see if I'm reading it wrong, but I'm not. How did the ancient Greeks know that? Are they talking about BC, or I don't know? When they are usually known as Nereids, I'm not sure. After nymphs tended to frequent areas distant from humans, but could be encountered by lone travelers outside the village, where their music might be heard, and the traveler could spy on their dancing or bathing in a steam or pool, either during the moon heat or in the middle of the night. They might appear in a whirlwind. Such encounters could be dangerous, bringing dumbness, besotted infatuation, madness, or stroke to the unfortunate human. When parents believe their child to be Nereid-struck, they would pray to Saint Artemidos. Okay. And I just looked into this a little bit, but it says that they are used for all nymphs, fairies, mermaids, not merely nymphs of the sea. Now this is where kind of perked my interest. A Nereid, a moon of a planet Neptune, is named after Nereids. Nereid Lake in Antarctica is named after the nymphs. Why would they name something in Antarctica after that? what we're about to see, but you can see that this is almost like the female version of the satyr. And I guess you can see what type of people are here today. This stuff is very graphic. I'm sorry. Let's just move on. Let me see. Yes, this is Terra Australis incognita. Now, why would they put all of these beast-headed people in Terra Australis? And what we've gone over is that Terra Australis was not just Australia, but the connected land of Australia and Antarctica, even reaching into the 1600s, which was unfrozen land. So why would they put all these beast people here? As we read, the Most High turned a bunch of people into beasts and scattered them around the world. But they must have an origin, right? Was this their origin? I also find it very odd that the people of Australia have such high Neanderthal DNA, higher than the people in the Caucasus Mountains. Did they originate from Australia or Antarctica? Something to ask. Let me see. So I wanted to actually go over this because all these videos are very good. And there's only 7 minutes long. But this, you can see why I didn't want to make the other type of video, and I wanted to make this one.
I proceeded, therefore, and after a voyage of 50 days, came to the countries of the Bashnakar, a people who have mouths like those of dogs. This is a vile race. They have no religion, neither that of the Hindus nor any other. They live in houses made of reeds upon the seashore. Their trees are those of the banana, the forful, and the betel nut. The men are of the same form as ourselves, except that the mouths are like those of dogs. But the women have mouths like any other folks. The men go naked, without the least covering whatsoever. Only one among them I saw who had put his virilia into a painted hollow reed which was hung to his belly. The women cover themselves with the leaves of trees.
Sounds like nymphs. At least to me it does. You can make your own decision, or conclusion I should say.
One who had much intercourse with them told me that they copulate like beasts, without the least concealment.
So someone came and copulated with them, right? Copulated with one of their women because their women look like anyone else. So we can see why maybe some of us here in the Americas seem to have a abnormal amount of so-called Neanderthal DNA or Denisovan DNA, whatever you call it, whichever one it is. I don't remember, but we have this non-Adamic DNA. Could have been from some sort of mass event of us procreating with these things and with their women, pretty much. Could that have occurred? Almost like some sort of exodus that had to occur with them leaving these lands and going somewhere else. Could that have occurred?
The men will have 30 or more wives, but adultery is not committed. Should anyone, however, be convicted of this crime, his punishment is to be hanged until he is dead, until he brings either a friend or slave who is willing to be hanged for him. He may then go free. The sentence for the woman is that the king shall command all his servants to trample upon her one after another till she dies. She is then thrown into the sea. The women resist the men to a degree beyond their nature, but the men, from their baseness of character and fear about the women, will not allow any one of the merchants to proceed on the sea in front of their houses. They will merely consult and trade with them, carrying their fresh water on the backs of elephants. When we put into their port, their king came to us riding on an elephant, upon which there was something like a saddle cloth made of skin. The king himself was dressed in goat skin, the hairy part of which he had turned outwards. Upon his head was a turban of coloured silk, and in his hand a short silver spear. With him was a number of his relations riding upon elephants and using a language which no one could understand, unless he had been some time among them. We sent him the usual present, for every ship putting into any port of India is expected to send a present to the magistrate of the place. Now, these people buy and receive as presents she-elephants, over which they put saddle-cloth, but do not completely clothe them. But any ship not giving them their present, they will so work upon them with their magic that the sea will rise upon it, and it will perish, or they will return upon and injure it. We then left this place, and in 15 days arrived at the island of Java, the place from which the incense of Java receives its name. And all the men and women of that isle have hounds' heads, and they be clept Cynocephali, and they be full reasonable and of good understanding, save that they worship an ox for their god. And also every one of them beareth an ox of gold or silver in his forehead.
Whoa! Who does that sound like? If you don't know, it sounds like a bunch of Canaanites.
In token that they love well their god. And they go all naked, save a little clout that they cover with their knees and their members. They be great folk, and well fighting, and they have a great targe that covereth all the body, with a spear in their hand to fight with. And if they take any man in battle, anon they eat him.
Do you see why the Most High punished us? Because we started to copy the Canaanites. What did the Aztecs do? What did we do? What did some of the people in the islands do? After we would win a battle, we'd eat some of their flesh? This is a Canaanite custom. And this is exactly why the Most High did what he did to us. So,
the king of that isle is full rich and full mighty, and right devout after his law. And he hath about his neck 300 pearls orient, good and great and knotted, and in manner as we say our Ave Marias, counting the Pater Nosters, right so this king saith every day devoutly 300 prayers to his God before he eats. And he beareth also about his neck a ruby orient, noble and fine, that is a foot of length and 5 fingers large. And when they choose their king, they take him that ruby to bear in his hand, and so they lead him, riding all about the city. And from thence forward they all are obedient to him. And that ruby he shall bear always about his neck, for if he had not that ruby upon him, men would not hold him king. The great Chan of Cathay hath greatly coveted that ruby, but he might never have it for war, nor for any manner of goods. This king is so rightful and of equity in his domains, that men may go calmly throughout all his country, and bear with them what they list, in the knowledge that no man shall be hardy to rob them, and, if he were, the king would be notified anon. From this land men go to another island that is clept Scylla, and it is well 800 miles about, and that land is full of much waste, for it is full of serpents, of dragons, and of cocodrills, that no man dwell there. Anguilla is a very large island. The people are without a king and are idolaters, and no better than wild beasts. And I assure you, all the men of this island of Anguilla have heads like dogs. and teeth and eyes likewise. In fact, in the face, they're all just like big mastiff dogs. They have a quantity of spices, but they are a most cruel generation and eat everybody that they can catch, if not of their own race. They live on flesh and rice and milk and have fruits different from any of ours. Now that I've told you about this race of people, as indeed it was highly proper to do in this book, I'll go on to tell you about an island called Ceylon, as you shall hear.
So that's, I mean, I have more to share, but hopefully I could do a video on Marco Polo and how he was actually Paul. But let's move on. This is another video. It's very good, but I don't want this video to be too long, so I'm going to leave this link in the description if you guys want to check it out. But I want to get to the point. The Cynocephali exist in the mythology of Europe, India, and China, what they just named as Cathay. The legends of all three of these creatures originally said that the Cynocephali resided somewhere in the wildlands west of Tibet, north of Persia, modern-day Iran. European legends later began placing Cynocephali in all the unexplored regions. In Europe, they were described as dog-headed people, sometimes as dog-headed hairy giants that have something in common with hairy humanoids. In the legends from India and China, the Cynocephali were described as shapeshifters who could change from human to dog, but who always retained some animal features when they became human again. Why? Because they're cursed with these animalistic features. The Cynocephali, okay, they're saying that they didn't exist. Okay, well, let's move on. That's another great video. I'll leave all these links in the description. And you guys could just look it up, you know. This stuff is not really hidden, but they try to make it into folklore. The condition of Cynocephaly having the head of a dog or of a jackal is a widely assessed legendary phenomenon existing in many different forms and contexts. The word is taken from okay, let's move down. The Cynocephaly was familiar to the ancient Greeks from representations of the Egyptian god Hapi, the goddess of Horus and Anubis. The Egyptian god of the dead was always shown with the head of a jackal. So they used to worship these non-Adamic beings and these Canaanite beings and Nephilim beings, perhaps. Reports of dog-headed races can also be tracked back to Greek antiquity. In the 5th century BCE, the Greek physician Ctesias, I'm guessing, wrote a detailed report on the existence of Cynocephaly in India. Similarly, the Greek traveler Megasthenes claims to know about dog-headed people in India who live in the mountains. Whoa, who live in the mountains. Who lives in the mountains? Who lives in the clefts of the rocks? Communicate through barking, wearing the skins of animals, and live by hunting. What was Edom? He was all about hunting. He wasn't about agriculture. These people are a big mix. You have to realize this. Edom mixed with Canaan, with Canaanites. He also mixed with us. But it would seem that there are a sect of them that behave in this way, or behaved in this way, and still kind of behave in this way, right? Cynocephaly also figure in Christian worldviews. A legend that placed St. Andrew and St. Bartholomew among the Parthenians, presented the case of Abominable, the citizen of the city of cannibals, whose face was like unto that of a dog. After receiving baptism, however, he was released from his doggish aspect. So that's very interesting. I don't know how true any of this stuff is, but this is interesting. Let me see if there's anything else I wanted to share. To the unit of soldiers, according to the hagiographic narrative was assigned the name numerous Marmaritarium, or unit of the Marmariate, which suggests an otherwise unidentified Marmariates, perhaps the same as the Marmarise Berber tribe of Cyrenaica, I guess that's Cyrene. He was reported to be of enormous size, with the head of a dog instead of a man, apparently characteristic of Marmariate. So let's move on. The Cynocephali were a tribe of dog-headed men native to Africa and India. The name Cynocephaly means dog. I guess Cyno means dog, and head means cephaly. The legend probably originated in ancient travelers' accounts in Africa. Okay, no, they're not. What the hell? Why are they always trying to make a conclusion, bro? But here's the real stuff I wanted to share with you. Because now we might understand where the word canine comes from. Not where the word Canaanite comes from, but where the word canine comes from. In the Eastern Orthodox Church, certain icons covertly identified Saint Christopher with the head of a dog. The background to the dog-headed Christopher is laid in the reign of the Emperor Diocletian, where a man named Repus was captured in combat against tribes dwelling west of Egypt in Cyrene. To the unit of soldiers, according to the hagiographic narrative, was assigned the name. Okay, we read that. Now look, the Byzantine description of Saint Christopher as dog-headed resulted from their misinterpretation of the Latin term Cananeus or Canaanite to read Cananeus, that is canine. So they're saying that, the reason why he has a dog head is because he was a Canaanite and they confused Canaanite with canine. Or, because I'm going to make my conclusion, because they want to make theirs, I'm going to make mine. There was no confusion. And the term canine came from the term Canaanite because the Canaanites looked like dogs. How about that? How about that? And we can see in the land of Antarctica, how these people look. Well, not how they look, but the fact that this is still green. Why is this still green? In the 1600s. You have your woody-woes, because you have these different, creatures that are not necessarily from Adam, or they could be from Adam, I don't know. They're all mixed up. I don't know. And this reminds me of the Merovingian, emblem. I guess they're trying to pronounce what bloodline they come from. That they come from Cain. Because you have to realize that the Canaanites do not come from Ham, they come from Cain. Like we went over that already. They come from Cain. They are not from Ham. They're not Ham's biological son. So they're not from Ham, and they're not from Noah either. They could be from Adam, but I don't think these people are from Noah. So that's all I really wanted to share. Look into this stuff yourself. You can see that these things were beasts. These things were just humanoid animals. Damn near. And now they're walking among us. And the Most High, he said he would make us jealous with a nation that's not a nation. I don't think the people who are ruling over us come from Noah. Just my opinion. May peace be with you. Selah Kalah.